I don't know how to phrase this. We're talking about hobbies and
stuff and
skills, and we're talking about charisms. I don't know.
Is it possible to be a good man, a man of God, and have hobbies?
That's a dumb
Roll
question.
it.
No. Of
Roll
course,
it.
yes.
This episode of The Men's Show was sponsored by Select International Tours. Awesome partners of ours. We really appreciate their support for this show. You can check them out at selectinternationaltours.com. Hey, stay frosty, extraordinary ladies and gentlemen. Back to the show.
It is possible.
Welcome back to the Men's Show. John Mark, tell them about the cool opportunity we have for them.
If you go to themenshow.com, you can join our patron community, the League of Ordinary Gentlemen, and ladies are invited too, where you can get access to the live stream, the recordings, other special stuff, perks.
And most importantly, give us money.
And that's a part of it, yes. And
for a good reason.
Nick, would you tell them about the platform?
Before I get into that, I do also want to highlight that we could really use an air conditioner in this room.
Getting so warm.
And air filtration, because we're not going to not do the cigars and pipes and stuff. It'd really be great to have air filtration. So join the patron community that John Mark was just talking about, the League of Extraordinary.
I feel like that's not what the money
League
should
of
be spent
Ordinary
on.
Gentlemen.
Do we vote on that?
And ladies are invited.
And ladies are invited
Ladies
too.
too.
Yes.
What are we voting on?
Whether or not to get air conditioning in here?
No.
Rob has a better idea.
You have a better idea?
I
Anyways,
have no idea.
let me tell you about the app. Go to theawakenapp.io on your laptop, desktop, iPad, browser, or Android tablet. I guess some people have those still. And then also...
Wow, swipe on the Android users.
well, there's barely any. That's not a big market.
Androids?
Android tablets.
Tablets.
It's not a big market.
I literally own one.
Kindles. I don't know. I don't think we're on the Amazon. Anyways,
Are you on my LG Smart TV?
one day we're going to be on the LG Smart TV one day. Anyways, as I was saying, go to your Apple App Store, Google Play Store, download the Awaken app today to hang out with us. And Rob, you'll have to interact with Rob's post. He gets lonely when he makes those posts all the time, and nobody's telling him that no one's affirming him.
Yes,
it's really sad.
Let me take another run at this. Okay. So, you guys know Jennifer Fulwiler?
Yeah.
She was in town recently. Okay, so she wrote this book called The Blue Flame, and she sort of coined this term. I don't maybe it was someplace before her, but her last couple books that she's written, which were very good, I recommend them for families, talking about how God has given us skills, he's given us charisms, and you may or may not have, be blessed to have a job in which your particular skills and charisms, the things that really make you come alive, your art, your craft, your particular way of ministering to others is involved. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. For those who don't, because it's not all of us necessarily do, how do you discern and fit that into your life? And then especially if you're married, how do you help your spouse do that as well? Does that kind of make sense what I'm talking about here? That doesn't make any sense what I'm talking about. I'm getting some
Spouses having hobbies? What?
Kevin.
It's all about my hobby.
I don't allow Alina to have any fun.
I do other things than work here? I hope so.
Like, even aside, I'm blessed pretty well in my job. I'm able to do a lot of the things that I really love. I'm involved in the church. I'm involved with telling people about the faith, discipling people, and enabling my team to do that in the Coming Home Network.
I would love to hear what your what's your what's everyone's hobbies,
Apart from that though, I really love philosophy, and I love reading, I love studying that, and I've been blessed with singing also.
Yes.
Opportunities like this where I get to read and then kind of just share the mental vomit of all the stuff I've been reading about. Sorry.
You get to talk about the cardinal virtues.
I get to talk about the virtues. Oh my gosh, that is my thing.
Yeah, it sure is.
So that's the point, is that that we have
jazzed for those
skills,
virtues.
we have charisms that God has given us that may or may not be part of our main day job. So then how do we discern where those fit, how we pursue those alongside our primary vocations as family guys, and then alongside our day job? Where do we fit that in? Does that make sense? Does that make more sense now?
Yeah, it kind of gets into the territory of self-care and how to do that well.
I hate that word.
What?
I hate those words.
Why do you hate that word?
I don't know.
You don't take care of yourself?
Self-care. Ugh. Can we make it more manly? Like, help me out here.
We need a manly version of self-care.
Here's how we fit it in.
Okay.
30 minutes once a month, 11:30 p.m.
Wow, that was surprisingly easy.
There it is.
You heard it
That's
first
your
here,
free
folks.
time.
Wondered why
Enjoy.
I worried over that so much.
confused.
Actually,
Yeah, that's not how we're going to handle that. No, I think that we have to strive. We can come up with a better term for it, but we really need to. We need to be the healthiest men we can be, or women, if you're a woman, for our spouse, for our children, for our work, for the things that we're called to do for the kingdom. I know that when I have been the most overworked, the most stressed, whatever, it's when I've been the worst husband and the worst father and the worst minister of the gospel. So that taking care of yourself. Yes, Rob, your face. What do you?
I'm just thinking.
Okay,
It's my thinking face.
Keep thinking. Yeah.
that's not a good one. You should come up with a different one because it freaked me out.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
But I just want to throw in specifically like hobbies or things that are our passions.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're talking about.
yeah.
Is it? And are those things so that they give our other things life? Or good in and of themselves?
I think in leisure time.
Yeah, so John Mark
like-
likes to reference the fact that we were made for leisure. Can you talk about that?
I love. Yeah.
well, you can talk about that just as well as I can. This
I
is our boy
certainly
Peeper.
cannot.
You and me and Peeper makes 3. Joseph.
Wow, we are good friends, the three of us.
Yes, we
Except
we
he died before we were
His
born.
book, The Leisure, the Basis of Culture. He talks a lot about
You guys need a minute?
No,
moment of silence.
a good friend.
We were made for the Sabbath. We are Sabbath people. We are called to work, right? That's part of the human condition, and work is good. But we are people of the Sabbath. We work. We don't rest on the Sabbath in order to go do more work. Work isn't the point. We work to create that space of worship, that place of true leisure, and we want to talk about what that means, true leisure. So again, not just so we can go out and work more, but perhaps so that our work can take on some of the characteristics of our Sabbath. That we remain in the presence of God, that we remain in a place of peace. What we fill our leisure times with, what our hobbies are. Again, we all encounter this distinction in our lives where we have a day off, and sometimes we spend it scrolling on social media or doing something stupid that we might crave in a certain sense, but it doesnn't fill us up. It doesn't refresh us. It doesn't make us more alive. It deadens us. Whereas we have other things, that do refresh us, that are good things to fill our leisure with. And I think in particular with this topic is that I think we all have then something or things specific to us, like again specific charisms or passions that God's given to us. It might be writing, or we have a friend, for instance, that Teresa gets together with the ladies. They do ladies' nights, whatever, and one of the moms just loves to bake. She just gets so jazzed about it. She
That
makes
is
the coolest
so
stuff.
convenient.
It works out really well.
Yeah.
And they enjoy it too. It's not everybody's thing, but it's her thing.
Yeah.
She loves to do it for them, and they love to enjoy it.
That's awesome.
So the point is that we have some of those things, and they should be something positive. Something God gives us those callings.
And I often find they're a blessing to other people.
Yeah.
It's not something done for our subsistence or like the everyday getting by, but it's just like an unnecessary blessing.
Yeah.
I also think it helps in this culture that says you are worth as much as you can offer society. So we have this like real pressure, like what are you contributing to society? What is your O2 output? What is your, what are you contributing to the economy or doing to save the planet or whatever it is? Like, what are we doing? And
What is your O2 output?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
don't know.
I'm actually just curious.
I feel like you're
Kevin's
not putting.
a zero now. He got a Tesla.
Does anybody put
Wow,
out
shots
O2 for the record?
I don't know, man. It's chemical. Listen,
I drove my Jeep over here,
I'm
by the way.
a
You're just planting
musician.
trees. Okay, got it. Sorry.
You're causing global warming.
We just got a
You
new
should feel
comment. Speaking of our O2 output, we just got a new comment from some really hot blonde. Her name is Alina De La Torre. She says, "Quit smoking in my
I
house."
approve this message.
I'm so sorry, Elena.
We're so sorry.
I will put it out.
We will.
Should I?
Should we? Could you smell
That's
it?
between you and her.
Whoa, I thought we were allowed.
I thought you were the man of the
I
house.
thought you
Nick.
cleared this.
Yeah, Nick.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
Well, it's getting warm in here.
I was gonna say.
Anyways, I think in this society that really trains us, programs us to find our worth in how much we're accomplishing, how productive we are. It's so important for us to rein in that tendency and that compulsion to or by resting. And seeing that resting is good, and doing things that are restful, doing things that bring us joy, just because that thing was a good thing to do.
Something good in itself. And this is where this whole topic it's connected with the phenomenon of art, right? You may not be a specific like high artist, like you may not be writing music or doing sculpture, whatever.
Lots of artists happen to be,
but in a
high though.
well, there's,
my gosh.
there is that. But in a more broad, under a more broad definition of art, we are all called to be artists, and it is that. Oh, so sorry. No more
Lena's
smoking.
yelling at us from the control
Okay,
room.
we are officially the cigars are nixed. Okay,
What?
Anyway,
There's video evidence that they're not mine.
nixed. Sorry. But when you do art, so art in the broad sense, right? We're all called to be artists. That is, we are created in the image of God, and part of that image is that we are sub-creators, right? We do things not merely instrumentally, things that are good only insofar as what they produce, but things that are good in themselves. Like to worship God is just good. It's not, we don't worship God so I checked it off my Sabbath day list. No, I worship because it in itself is good. When I spend time with my kids, that in itself is good. I don't just spend my time to get my 30 minutes so I can check it off so that they're going to be well-adjusted individuals.
Right.
No, I do it because it itself is a worthwhile activity. Yeah. And so that's one of the commonalities here is that the kinds of things that we fill our leisure time with, and especially those particular things that are maybe connected to our particular passion or our personality, are those things we find that particular art where we do something that is good just in itself.
Yes.
And again, most of us aren't artists in that more formal sense, but we all are artists in this general sense of there's some craft, there's some skill, there is some contribution that we are to make, but just the doing of it gives us life and jazzes us up.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
It's our participation in sub-creation.
Yes. When it's a creative activity. So what I was about to ask is how do we apply this? Because I think that there are some things that we can do that are good and restful and can be a healing activity that are not explicitly creative.
Like sitting down and watching a flower.
Well, okay, but no, but
Sitting
like
outside and stargazing.
Enjoying a beautiful night sky, maybe watching a movie with friends or with a spouse, or even like, man, I love that my wife right now has recently gotten into playing Animal Crossing. It's a video game on the Nintendo. She has so much of her life like struggled to like just chill the frick out. And she's really enjoying, and I am enjoying the look of peace on her face now that she's like allowing herself to do this. And like, that's not a creative thing per se, but man, is it good for her. Like she's really enjoying that.
I mean, I feel like video games in and of themselves are of the devil and they're evil. So,
which reminds me,
I didn't think Pete was here tonight.
I really miss Pete.
I'm here for you.
I didn't say anything.
Thanks, Kevin.
No, but truly, like there are those things that are very good and healing, even if they aren't explicitly creative. So how do we kind of?
There is creativity in Animal Crossing. That game.
You're not wrong.
There
yeah,
is the
true.
ability to be creative.
Yeah.
However, it may not be, as we've talked about in leisure episodes, the highest form of a leisurely activity. You can always go higher or lower, or all that stuff. So, John Mark, do you agree with that? Like,
I'm pondering many things.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
It's not explicitly creative when we are in contemplation either, right? There's some of our prayer where we are creative, where we speak to God, we bring ourselves to God. We have to do something. But then there's that prayer where we sit back and we
marvel at,
don't. Yeah, we
marvel at creation.
So there's
but it is an affirmation of creation.
Yeah, maybe that's the
I think the common character of when we create and when we contemplate is the affirmation of what is and what's good.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
With God, that fundamental expression of love that it is good that you exist.
That's real good.
Is to see it and to affirm it. Because again, when you affirm the goodness of creation, you are taking sides with God, right? Because God is the one who looks on his creation and says it is good. and my plan is good. Like it's gonna be. I'm on God's side when I affirm that and I rest in that. I'm not on God's side when I'm worrying, or when I'm doubting God's goodness, or I'm doubting that things are going to be okay. But when I'm able to marvel at creation, and affirm the goodness of things, I'm saying I'm with God on this.
And in imitation, I think that's a link between, the creation and art and worship.
Yeah.
Is that affirmation.
Yeah, I think so.
And to be like God and to create like God and to say this is good and this is.
Yeah. Hey, you made it this far. It's time to refresh that drink and grab another cigar. But hey, while we're doing that, please check out selectinternationaltours.com, our sponsor for this episode of The Men's Show. They're great partners of the show. We appreciate their support. We'll see you when you get back.
Well, that's like you. So God created, and then we're marveling at that and we're contemplating. Maybe in the same way, people can do that for other people's creations.
Oh,
Is it
eat
similar?
a delicious, freshly made pumpkin pie and just say, "Oh, that's good." You even in
Cinnamon
that time,
Crunch Bagel Panera.
contemplating.
Those are good. Yeah, but like with the friend of Teresa's that likes to bake, like the role of Teresa and the rest of the friends that aren't the one that bakes, like their role is not creative per se, but they are enjoying and participating in that creation by receiving it, appreciating it, experiencing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Enjoying it.
Yeah.
Enjoying.
Yeah. So the creative aspect, I think that covers, or that should cover all range of activities. I think one of the things that happens in our life, if we take seriously the Sabbath, so both the contemplative, worshipful awe of the Sabbath of God, but also leisure activities where we are really being creative. We really are imaging God in our activity. That what we find is when we go back out into our work, the rest of our lives, the rest of those activities that may not be our favorite things, our passionate things, that ideally that stuff teaches us how to do those other things better, right? So that we worship God in Mass, the highest thing, but then we go out and even walking through nature or being with other people, we're able to see them differently. We're able to, see God in them. We're able to marvel at their goodness precisely because we learned that in that relationship with God. Well, so too, I think we all, have specific creative passions somewhere in our life, whether it's just taking care of our family or our home or our property or a sport that we like to master, or an actual craft, or a specific kind of ministry. When we really embrace those things, part of what we're also learning there is how to do everything else in our life, which is from this place of peace, this place of creativity, this place of co-creating with God, so that even the things that are kind of menial or boring we're supposed to do in our lives, we try to do them differently. We try to see the goodness in them. We try to see God even in the small things.
And we keep them in a proper context.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we can do is we put work over these things and we flip the world on its head. I think we do it constantly.
Yeah.
I think that's our modern temptation, is to rest so that we work and not work so that we rest. And when we rest and we live in communion with God, like really we see our work as an extension of that.
Yeah.
Rather than, we are doing these things so that we can work. We don't see work as a means but an end.
Yeah,
and
right.
that is terrible.
Yeah, and again, if we put it in the right order, if we learn to value the things that are ends in themselves, again, our Lord, the good people He's created, the good things He's created, we see the beauty in them. Well, then we can even go back to our work, which again is an instrumental thing in a certain respect.
Yeah.
We can appreciate it differently though.
Yep.
Yeah, and to bring this down to like a real practical reality that a lot of people face, like so many people I care about that like live in big cities, even family members of mine. Miami, Florida is where I'm from. Traffic there, rush hour, is stupid. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this incredible cultural pressure there. Not that this doesn't exist elsewhere, but there is an immense cultural pressure in South Florida to look successful. So you get a house that's way more expensive than you can afford. You get a car that's way more expensive, 2 cars that are way more expensive than you can afford between you and your spouse. You live your life with both spouses working full time. Kids are at school and at daycare to whatever degree that's also necessary. They spend their days waking up way too early, going to work, driving an immense amount of time, spending a full work day, an immense amount of time on the drive back, spending maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours max with their kids, going to sleep and doing it all over again, all of that to sustain this lifestyle of maintaining the perception of success and affirmation from others. And literally life is about that work and that success, the hustle, rather than not that.
Right.
And it's miserable. I watch people I care about living that, and it's like, man, I don't want ever to be in that position.
No.
It's like that. I think I've probably told this before, but the story of the fisherman.
Yes.
I did do that.
Tell it again.
I'll do a truncated version because it's a little long. There's this guy fishing on a pier. This other guy, this old, I don't know if he's old. Just a guy. He's on a pier. He's fishing. Right?
Unknown age.
And the other guy's like, hey, why don't you catch more fish than what you're catching? And then you could sell the extra and take them to the market. And and then he said, well, and then what? And then you could, well, what would I do with that? Well, you'd get another fishing pole. You could get more fish. I said, well, what would I do? What then? Yeah. And he said, well, you could buy a boat, and you could eventually works it up to say, well, you can do this whole fishing company, and then you're going to end up with making more money than you could ever need. And then you could do whatever you want. And then what? He said, well, then you could fish all day. Which is what the guy was doing in the first place. Right. Like, it's just like this idea we have of like work for work's sake without the ends in mind. The proper end of man.
Yeah. And again, that's the place we all want to end up. I mean, we aren't, not everyone is blessed ultimately with a way of bringing home the bacon for their family that also corresponds with that creative thing in their life. Like ideally they would, but if they lean into the Sabbath, if they lean into worship, and if they lean into that creative outlet in their life, again, they learn how to affirm the goodness of God's creation. They learn how to image God in expressing their creativity in the specific way that God calls them to. Well, then they can even hopefully go back to their work and find the creativity there, find the excellence, find the way of giving glory to God even in that aspect of the life too.
Amen.
Nick, what would you say is your personal creative outlet, or like where do you find your leisure? What are your things?
To be honest with you, right now I struggle more than I would like to have leisure time. Just because outside of Awaken, I run another company as well, so it's like a lot.
Do you think, friend comment zone,
okay,
do you think you turn your leisure into work? Question mark.
Leisure into work.
Because I imagine there's aspects of this ministry that you love or really enjoy doing. Do you have a tendency to turn those things into work?
So certainly, but I also feel called to that. Where I would say there's a difference, or like where I would say what you're describing is maybe more problematic is like with my music. So love music. I've always loved producing music since junior high. And when now I spend more time making music for other people so I can sustain my family, I end up not making my music or my wife's music, although we did just release a song for her, which is awesome. You should go check it out.
Yeah. What's her
it's on the Awaken app, Forgotten Country.
It is on the Awaken app.
Check it out.
It's called Forgotten Country, and her artist name is...
I have the Awaken app.
Yeah.
What is it? Her
artist name is Arain.
What? Tell me about that.
What? No, hold on.
I don't understand.
Too many things. So, my point is what you're getting at is absolutely valid, and like, every time Alina and I catch ourselves after months of totally ignoring our own music, we're just like, what are we doing with our lives? Yeah. And it's not that we haven't been making music; it's that we haven't been making music in leisure, and that is our music, that we are being creative, that it's not doing that.
Well, and do you find yourselves recharged when you do make time for that?
Oh my gosh, it is so life-giving, not only in the leisure sense, but like for our marriage, because music is so at the core of our marriage.
And that's one of the points. Again, I really highly recommend Jennifer Fultweiler's books, One Beautiful Dream, and then The Blue Flame, which was kind of the follow-up book, kind of building on some of the things that she realized over the course of that autobiography bit of One Beautiful Dream. But that was kind of her thing. So she was just a quick recap of Jennifer Fultweiler. She's super awesome. She was an atheist who became Catholic, very smart, very, very sharp, she and her husband. But she was a writer beforehand, and then she became Catholic and just, fully embraced and loved, the family life. And she had a bunch of kids, and they have a busy, messy family life. And the second book, she wrote a book about her conversion. Her second book, One Beautiful Dream, was about this question, though. Now she's busy with this family, but she still feels called to do some writing. And then she's discerning, well, is it selfish of me to try to make some space for that writing time in my life? And she's wrestling with that and discerning it, and some ups and downs. The conclusion, though, is that she discovered that to make some time for that, especially as a team effort of the family, again, in discernment with her husband, to say, this is something I think I'm still called to do. But that when they did make time for it, that recharged and refreshed her in such a way that she was able then to go back and be an even better mother and wife.
And put other things in perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Perspective, yes.
So I think that's when we think about how to fill our leisure time, as little as it may be, we want to keep in mind that there are specific skills or charisms or hobbies perhaps that do recharge us in that way.
Yep.
And we want to find that and image God in that creativity.
Kevin, what does that look like for you in your life?
It's different. Like I've personally been struggling with a couple things because, like Nick, I am not a musician, but I'm a drummer.
Kevin, you're a musician, man.
So
Kevin's a stupid good drummer.
I love drumming, and like I feel called to that. And
describe what you do badly. I hit stuff with sticks and make sounds.
That's exactly what I hit stuff. But people need someone to hit stuff in their band, so that's me. But
you do it quite well.
So what's happening is like I play in a few different bands. I love the people that I play with, and when I play with them, I do feel recharged. But then we'll have like 3 or 4 gigs in a weekend, and it's like that first one. It's like a cup of water, You drink the first one, and it's like, so refreshed. And you drink the second one, you're like, But like within those things, there's room for play and creativity. But I recently couldn't drum for like 2 weeks, and I came back and I drummed for like 10 minutes, and I was recharged, and I got that feeling, and I was excited. I came upstairs, and I was like, Liz, my wife, awesome wife, beautiful wife. Hey, Liz, if you're watching. I was just like, I just had the greatest time ever.
Was it Phil Collins?
That's the only Phil I play, and it's glorious, and Phil Collins is amazing. But it's something like that. But then, when does it take over? You have to discern all these things. You have to be prudent about these things. And even within those things, when you're playing secular music, like what songs are okay to play? Are those songs I should play? I probably shouldn't play those songs. And there's a whole discernment process that
certain times you probably shouldn't be playing them, like 3 a.m.
That's totally right. Honestly, yeah. When I was younger and playing 2 a.m. shows, nothing good happens in those times. Honestly, so yeah, I would I love hearing about other people's hobbies and growing in those and learning new things. So
What about you, Rob? You're next.
Oh man, why did I not think this would come to me?
I'll go last. You go. Unless
I don't know. I just like to do stuff with my hands. I like to build. I like to.
You are great at this, by the way.
I like tiling. I like, I love home projects. I just love home projects, and it is very much work. Right. It's not like, that's the funny thing about it is like and it's tiring, it's exhausting, but I just enjoy it, and I love it when it's done.
And you've done some really cool creative stuff too. Like I really love what you did at the house that you guys are selling now. Like really, really beautiful stuff.
Yeah. And that's probably like, I certainly enjoy reading. That's a leisure for me. I've been out of it for a while. I just picked up reading again. And that's been good, but yeah.
For both my wife and I think our main thing is just, it's like studying and talking. That's what gets us jazzed up. And so, again, we find this in our own life. We've been blessed, and more so me, in terms of day-to-day life. I've given lots of opportunities to study and then go talk and get jazzed up about this kind of stuff. read about the virtues and go talk about them. So that's, I love that. I love doing that. The blue flame thing, with Jennifer Fulwiler and her books meant a lot to us because we recognized in our marriage that we needed to prioritize making time for us to do that together. Both because I just have lots of opportunities for it, and Teresa has less opportunities just because we have busy home life. So we prioritize like making time for us to like listen to books together and discuss them, or to come to Awaken Catholic and do our show here at Awaken Catholic, because that's both she and I get really jazzed up by that. And I'm less of an extrovert, so it's not so much the like being around a bunch of people. It's more close, deep conversations. She is more of an extrovert, so sometimes like she'll go off to a conference, or she'll go to ladies' night, or she'll go do something, and she'll just come back just like supercharged because she's been with people, she's been talking, she's been expressing her passion. And so
and if you want to see more of what John Mark and his wife Teresa do, visit elevateordinary.com.
Yeah, we just schedule the time, come down here, and we just put a camera on in front of it while we just talk about
you guys do a beautiful job. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. Love this. Love
this
the
was like a typical fourth topic.
It was great.
They're always a little bit more messy.
It was more personalized.
It worked.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. And the people loved it. I know that. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. No, there's more than two. There's more than two.
Three.
All right, guys, this has been great. Again, if you want to support this show and be a part of these conversations and get access to all the cool perks, make sure to join our Patron community, which John Mark is going to tell you about.
The League of Ordinary Gentlemen and ladies are invited also. Go to themenshow.com. Live streams, special stuff, perks, I don't know.
All that jazz. And
it's really hot in here.
Make sure it is warm. Make sure to help us join the Patreon community. Help us get some AC.
We're doing a fundraising campaign within the fundraising campaign.
Yes, specifically. But make sure to get the Awaken app. It's an awesome community. It's growing. We are over 1,000 people now, and it's super cool. Lots of different groups from the different shows, people that are into the different shows, and there's a music library, including the music my wife and I make, and her new solo act song, and there's a prayer library. There's all kinds of nice goodies. So visit theawakenapp.io or search for Awaken Catholic in your App Store or Google Play Store.
That's been the Men Show, I think.
Thanks for hanging around,
guys. We
have
been the men.
Until next time, thank you all. Here's to you.
Cheers.
There was a wild colonial boy, Jack Duggan was his name. He was born and raised in Ireland in a place called Castlemaine. He was his father's only son, his mother's pride and joy. We're back on it. And clearly did his parents love the wild colonial boy. Ethan's carrying us in there.
Does Ethan know this?
At the early age of 16 years, he left his native home. And to Australia's sunny shore, he was inclined to roam. I lost it. He robbed the rich, he helped the poor, he shot James McAvoy. A terror to Australia was the wild colonial